Hi, this is Chris from Woodsman Spirits channel. Greetings from a beautiful British Columbia. It's a mid-August day and blazing hot, so I'm just taking some time to make this little video and take advantage of the shade of these trees here. What I'd like to do today is, as I mentioned before, my intention was to make a brief video about different options for axes for bushcraft or woodsman activities. I've lost count of how many axes I actually have and how many I've restored, but probably around the 30 mark, I would think. But I've with me just a small selection of those today, and I'll just explain what my experience of them and what their, in my opinion, strengths and weaknesses might be. So okay, I can just hear something behind me in the bush, and I know this is a very busy time of year for black bear, so forgive me if I occasionally seem a little bit hyper vigilant. Yeah, so you know, most people are into hiking, camping, bushcraft, conversant with this kind of shape of axe. This is actually a classic, I would call it a limbing axe from Canada, made by a company called Walters. Now, H. Walters, they went out of business many years ago. I believe H. Walters came to Canada, to Quebec, from Yorkshire in England way back in 1850. So I have a particular interest in this because I come from Yorkshire and I've been here in BC for about 11 years. So this is a very nice, what I would call limbing bushcraft kind of axe. It weighs somewhere in the region of 2¼ pounds, probably similar to a lot of the SA Wetterling and HB axes that people like to do bushcraft with. Some people have described this as a Canadian equivalent of Grantsford Brooks. I mean, I can't really comment on that. It feels and handles just as well as that, and the steel, I'm sure, is very good, holds a very good edge. The haft here is, I believe, 26 inch, so probably what most would consider on the extreme length for packable bushcraft axes. So in my opinion, an axe that would probably, well, most certainly do what you need it to do in summer outdoor activities, summer bushcraft, but also it would perform pretty good in winter. It would take limbs and small trees maybe to about 4 inches without too much physical effort. This is the whole thing. If people opt for very small, lightweight, backpacking kind of axes, then if your intention is, or if you find yourself in a bushcraft or camp situation where you know, the trees are maybe averaging out at 4 inches, you're going to have a hard job falling trees of that size. However, you can take advantages of branches, of course, and providing your axe is in good shape. So again, that's the H. Walters 2¼ pound. Here is another extremely good axe, but you know, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of good by Woodtrekker and people like that on YouTube about axes like this one. This is the ox head, Iltis ox head, and this is about 2½ pounds. I've actually improved the profile of the blade slightly and made a slight convex on the grind, because it's a very slim profile axe, as you can see. Again, 26 inch long, A nice material the haft's made of, but not quite the right profile for what I like, but that's my personal preference. Yes, I would agree with many other commentators on axes that this does tend to bind in the wood, and you know, most people in bushcraft would prefer axes that don't bind in the wood. It cuts very well, but it does, when it bites into the wood, it also can become lodged. I've polished this to quite a high degree to minimise that. So that's the Iltis Oxhead 2.5 pound 26 inch. Axes that I'm using more frequently in my activities up here in the woodland at the moment are Billnass, and as those of you who followed my channel, you've probably already seen me talk about Billnass and maybe seen this one. This is a more contemporary Billnass, probably one of the last series that they made. This is what they call 1133. I think it's around about the kilo mark. I made my own haft out of birch for this, and you know, some people say birch is not strong enough, but if you look at the physics in this axe, I mean, it's very thick here at the neck, and it's got this sleeve there, and which minimises any leverage, not as you should really use axes for major leverage. Again, this is quite a thick wedge, but when ground to the right edge profile, it actually bites well. But the trick is to, rather than chopping into the wood at a steep angle, is to get used to cutting in at a slightly shallower angle, I believe is the correct expression. I mean, because of its weight, some people would deem it as slightly on the heavy side for bushcraft, but my belief is that, you know, I'd rather leave behind a lot of modern trinkets out of my pack sack for the sake of carrying an axe that will serve me well and I can rely on. Sticking on the subject of Billnass, this is a Billnass 12.3. I mean, this forge actually, I understand, started making axes around about 1650, so you know, probably the oldest or one of the oldest axe makers. Again, went out of business, were taken over by Fiskars in I think it was 1980s, and most people know Fiskars axes, but this is the Billnass 12.3. Again, I made a custom haft out of ash on this occasion, and I think this is about 25 inches. Fairly slim profile for a Billnass, but to most people still looks wider than the average typical axe. A nice hammering pull on the back. Spent a lot of time working a good edge up on this, and excellent limbing axe. I would have no trouble whatsoever in taking this as a bushcraft axe, and I think it would compare with any current bushcraft axes that are popularly available. So again, that's a Billnass 12.3. Sticking with Billnass, this is a 12.2, which is a heavier axe, whereas the 12.3 is 1.1 kilogram, which I believe is, let me see now, that's, is that round about the 2.5 pound mark, which is still towards what most people would call the top end of a bushcraft axe. This is 1.6 kilos, so this in fact is nearer 3.5 pounds, I believe. Again, I've tried to stick with the tradition of the fins, and I think this is a 25 or 26 inch haft. At the time I didn't have any suitable birch, so I had an excellent piece of hickory. But again, this is probably beyond the weight of axe that I would like to carry. I would be okay to 2.5 pounds, but when you get over 3, unless I was you know, going in with a vehicle or an ATV or a truck or something, I would not take this, but this is actually, I understand, and I aren't an authority on these, but this is a slightly, even though it's heavier and it has a wider cutting edge across here by I think 10 millimeters wider than the 12.3. This 12.2 is designed as a felling axe, which surprises some people when you look at relatively short haft. I've used it quite a lot here, and it cuts very well. It's got the weight to cut, and that's a good thing, because with a short haft you don't get that power swing, and but it's not all bad. I mean, I'm getting used to using the shorter haft, and you know, I can't say honestly it's any less effective than a longer haft with a lighter head. Just one more bill nast to show you here, which is the most recent one I've done. I was told this was a 12.3, but it certainly isn't. But neither, for that matter, is it a 12.2. This, in some ways, I haven't used it much yet, but this in some ways is my favourite axe at the moment. It is. It's thicker. If you notice, it's a thicker wedge here than the 12.2, which tells me it isn't a 12.2, and also it's probably somewhere between 5 and 10 millimeters shallower in the cutting edge. It's got a more. It's ground back further, therefore giving it. I think it's about a 40 degree. No, 40 degree bevel on there. Again, you have to get used to that chopping with a blade in a more horizontal than you would with a European axe. I did manufacture this out of a nice piece of birch and tried to stay true to the tradition of making a wide knob on the end of the axe, which is actually quite good. It's you know, if you work in the rain, or it's you know, it gives you you can hold it without exerting as much force through your fingers, and that of course cuts down on the shock. The birch certainly transmits far less shock through the haft than does the hickory. I mean, the 12.2 can be pretty hard, and through years of use of axes, I know sometimes when I'm using a heavy hickory axe all day, I know about it the following day in terms of you know, joint pain in fingers, etc. But yeah, this is I mean, it's I think it's a beautiful shape. I tried to replicate the shape from what I've seen in pictures, and it's quite thick near the neck. Again, I made it thick there because being birch is not as strong as, or not as torsionally strong as hickory, but you know, with it being that thick, probably inch and a quarter by 2 inches, and the socket is you know, it's quite long on this. In fact, the socket is wider on this than on the 12.2. I mean, I've made videos about fixing these heads on, and so far so good. These are really tight. I haven't yet shaved it down to flush with the top, because as the weather changes I may see a little bit of creepage, but as you can see, it's still very tightly fitted in there. There's no gap whatsoever. So yeah, that's the Billness 12 something, but unfortunately you can't see the, within that lozenge shaped stamp, you cannot see 12 watt, but it's I don't think it's a 12. I know it's not a 12.2, and I'm almost certain it's not a 12.3 because it's heavier, somewhere in between the weight of the two. So finally, this is I had this Russian axe head, and I've always wanted to try one of these. I mean, the top of the haft is really wide on these, and the pawl is very wide and square, probably inch and 3/4 by 2 1/4 or something like that. Again, fairly wedge shaped there, but it's not got much of a bevel grind on it. It's a slight bevel, and it actually, even though it was rusty, it's taken a very good edge. This is quite short. I'm thinking it's about 20 inches. Haft are made from a piece of leftover ash. There are some I think back in Siberia and Russia, people just made hafts out of whatever was available, and invariably they weren't pretty but effective. So I made it nice and thick near the neck. Cuts extremely well for a short axe. And again, you have to use a slightly different angle when you're chopping, but I would actually, it's certainly over 2 pounds, maybe £2.4 or 5 ounces, but I would have no issue in taking this in a camp or bushcraft situation. Anyway, I don't think there's much more to be said on these, but I just find the axe a very incredible tool, and I'm sure many of you out there have got a collection of axes which you're passionate about, but as I make more videos I will certainly be happy to show you probably some more English axes and Scandinavian axes that I've renovated. Or just briefly, for those people who ask me about this knife, this is a Puko style neck knife I made up. It's a nice piece of curly birch there, and a I think it's 65mm blade there. It's probably 2.5 inches. Very good edge on it. I'm not sure who the maker of the Puko blade is, but in most situations this is a knife good enough for day-to-day whittling or cutting leather or string or food for that matter. So, but I often use this Puko, which is raise the camera a bit so I can see it and me. It's more important to see it than me, I'm sure. But yeah, this is a nice Puko knife, and with a curly birch handle. Initially, it had some cracked yellow varnish on. I stripped it off, stained it with leather dye, and made a mixture of pine tar and linseed on there. And I got a good deal on it. I don't think anybody would realise that this is an extremely good blade. This is actually a large blade for me. It's a 5-inch Castellami blade, and Castellami made knives from his age of being 16, and he made his last knife, I believe, when he was 96, and they're made of, I think, silver steel. It certainly polishes up just like chrome. It's a nice razor sharp knife, nice tight fitting sheath. So yep, I hope you enjoyed this brief video today, and sorry there's been a delay. I've had so much on at the moment, I've not had enough time to make videos, but rest assured you'll be seeing much more of me in the near future. And thank you to everyone for your encouragement, and please go out and enjoy the outdoor. Take care now, bye.